What's up guys? I'm here at Revolution Parkour and I'm here to bring you the Raiden tutorial. Now basically, a Raiden is a front handspring off the wall like you just saw. So let's go ahead and get started and go into the first thing we gotta learn, which would be a front handspring, right? You want a front handspring off the wall? You're gonna want to learn a front handspring on the ground first. There's a couple different ways to do a front handspring. One, in this case, is definitely better than the other one. I'm gonna go over the two just very briefly, and I want you guys all to make sure that you have the second one down comfortably. Now the first one that we don't want is basically where our arms, when they come into the ground, we're bending them and then springing back up. I'll show you that just really quick. That's not what we want. It's very hard to flow out of. We land pretty low. It takes a lot of strength to even get that low landing. So what we're gonna wanna do instead, make sure our shoulders are up and get a very, very tight spring. It's gonna be a shoulder pop coming from your shoulders. You're gonna shoot the force all the way through to the tips of your fingers, and that's just gonna kind of pop you all the way around. You stay very straight, you walk out, easy to flow out of, and very, very helpful for the Raiden. Much better, right? All right, so that's what we're gonna wanna learn first. If you don't have that down pretty solid, I would say stay away from the Raiden for just a little bit, work on that a little bit. It's gonna really help you out when you take it to the wall. Now the next thing, I don't really consider this a prerequisite, but it is gonna help you a ton in any wall flip. Now, I call them dolphins. A lot of people call them like tack inward fronts. Where I'm from, we just call them dolphins, so I'm gonna refer to them as that. Show you one really quick. That's what we're gonna wanna have. The reason for this, it gets you very comfortable with actually throwing your head towards the wall like we're doing with the Raiden. What are we doing? We're diving head and hands first at a wall. It doesn't really feel very comfortable for everyone. So in order to do the dolphin, we're doing the same thing. It helps you just kind of feel out where your head's safe when you're diving towards a wall. You don't really need to do that to be able to do this, but it will help with your confidence and it will help with how comfortable you are. Now let's go into a few progressions that I start with. I definitely recommend having some mats down when you try this. If you don't have mats and you're outside, obviously there's two ways to learn it. Try and throw it, or better, find a very, very steep hill that you can basically do a front handspring on and try to get your front handspring as close back to your feet as you possibly can. So your hands are going to start there and your feet are going to want to land right where your hands took off. Very difficult to do on a flat ground, but when you're doing it on something slanted like a wall or a very steep hill, it'll be a little bit easier and it'll help you get comfortable with the movement, and then you can take it to a little bit more of a wall-like thing. But for this tutorial, I am going to be under the assumption that you're doing it in a gym, in a safe environment, using mats. So that's how we're going to go over it. I'm going to drag some mats in here and get back to you. Alright guys, I pulled my mats in here. They're nice and comfy. Testing them out, making sure I can land pretty horribly and still, be comfortable. Now that we've got our mats down, we're going to start getting more and more comfortable with your hands on the wall and actually rotating under. First thing I want to say about this is not the way you do a Raiden. You'll see a lot of people do something that you might consider like a Raiden, where they do kind of a step into it. It's basically a dolphin with their hands planted down. They never actually extend their body. They actually just go tap the wall and they think it's like a Raiden. Well, it is because your hands hit the wall, but you're tucked the whole time. For Raiden, you really gotta open up. So I don't want you guys to drill this part right here too hard, because you're gonna use tucking down and you really wanna be open on a Raiden. We'll get back into that a little bit later, but for now, we're gonna start with just one hand on the wall, whichever hand you feel more comfortable with. Our head is gonna be looking over our shoulder and actually stay on the ground the entire time. Your eyes are gonna be on the ground this whole time. You're basically gonna be doing a little bit of a side flip. Start down low, one hand on the wall, fairly low. You don't want it way up here. You want it here so you can press off. And we're gonna press and tuck our head into the side, kind of hold that tuck, and land out on our backs. This is gonna help you get comfortable with having your hand on the wall, pressing away, and just getting your head to go under. Now the next progression, everybody should have that almost no problem. This next one feels a little bit weirder. The way to make it less weird is by having both hands on, actually bring one hand down and the other hand to the top of it. It's gonna help a little bit, have you push away a little bit easier, and still have you rotate around your side, which is more comfortable because you'll never land on your head. So we're gonna do that one real quick. Very similar. I know that the rotation looks weird, but it will help you a lot in the end. So do practice that. And the way to work that in is very, very slowly and very incrementally. We're gonna start very high like this, and every time we go, we're gonna start bringing our hands closer and closer together. So that we start here, and then we move to here. As we do that, when we start here, our head's gonna be looking over our shoulder completely, like this. As we move it closer and closer together, our head's gonna start moving from here to here to here, and then finally straight down your chest until you're comfortable with doing this. You're gonna have to have a little bit of a step in so that you can press away from the wall a little bit easier. And something that might happen a lot actually is your feet just grazing the wall, kind of gliding down like this. Don't be scared of that, don't let it mess you up or anything. Just kind of get used to it. You'll slowly feel that it's really not a big deal. You'll know when your feet hit the wall, you'll be prepared for it and you can press away. Sometimes when you're actually doing a Raiden, you can even feel that coming and have one foot hit the wall and then land on your other foot and you're all good. So let's go ahead and get into where our hands are going to be placed and when we actually want to let go and press away from the wall. So now that we're getting very comfortable with actually throwing our head towards the wall and having our hands press away from the wall, now we have to start getting into our hand placement on the wall and when we actually want to do that press off. So first, we're going to go over the hand placement. Personally, I like placing my hands low on the wall. That doesn't mean placing your hands high is bad. I actually think it's really cool and I also think it looks a little bit cooler, but I've never tried to work my way into getting my hands higher and I'll go over that in just a second. But again, like I said, I like low hands. There's two reasons I actually started doing this. Number one is I'm actually scared of heights. So when I learned wall spins, I did the same thing. I planked very low because the fall is less dangerous. If I fall from my hands being down here, I'm only really falling a foot. If I fall from my hands being way up here, I'm falling a few feet and that actually just hurts. That's number one. Number two gets into when we actually want to press away from the wall, and that is when we are rising up. Our hips need to actually get fully over our hands before we press off. If our hands are up here, we need a very big jump to get our hips over our hands. So it's just a little bit easier and you'll have a little bit of an easier time whipping your legs down and actually completing the rotation if you plant your hands low. So I definitely recommend maybe about hip height, just kind of putting your hands right about there. It'll feel very comfortable for you, I think. It feels very comfortable for me. Now, when we want to let go, as I said earlier, with the front handspring, you want to stay very open. And as I said earlier again, when we were working up to just pressing away from the wall, you don't want to stay tucked for the full Raiden. You only want to stay tucked for that progression earlier to get comfortable with the wall. So for the full Raiden, you have to actually fully extend all the way up, let your hips ride all the way up, and get way above your hands before you actually press up. As you can see here, I'm actually going to go literally almost until my feet touch the top of the wall, and then I'm going to press off. It feels very comfortable once you're used to it. Or I'm going to trip. So again, we're going to want to have our hips rise all the way up. Our feet are going to be very close to the wall, maybe about a foot or two away before we actually press away from the wall. And when we do press away from the wall, it's going to be just like our handspring. It's going to start in our shoulders. You're going to pulse your shoulders, and that energy is just going to go all the way through your arms. You're going to press away from the wall, getting your head nice and safe. at a clear, safe distance. And then your feet are only going to bend at the knees. The rest of your body is gonna arch down, just like in a front handspring. You get that good spinal arch, and then your knees are gonna bend. That's gonna give you a very strong whip down to get you to your feet. It's gonna happen a lot here. It's probably landing on your feet and then being a little bit too far back and kind of rolling out of it in any way you feel comfortable. It's gonna happen a ton. At this point, it's all about just drilling it in, working on just the correct time to press away from the wall and getting your hips very high before you do so, and whipping down fast, getting good arch in your back and whipping your knees down. It's gonna help a ton. Then you'll have your Raiden. It takes a ton of practice to get these guys. Don't expect anybody to just kind of come in, look at this tutorial, go over it in maybe like 30 minutes to an hour and have the Raiden nailed. Not really the way a lot of moves work. You're gonna have to drill this for a long time, but it will come. Remember the instructions and keep going. And don't forget, once you get the Raiden, don't leave it at that. You're not done with the Raiden yet. You gotta flow into it, you gotta flow out of it. You're not really doing free running if you're only doing one move. You really have to add that flow in, go out of moves, otherwise you're just kind of doing a trick. So that's it. Good luck, guys. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. Go ahead and drop them below. If you really want me to do another tutorial, because again, this is my first one. It was a little bit weird talking to a camera, but I think it went all right. If you want me to do another one, just say what you want in the comments. And if it gets enough likes, I'll throw one up, because why not? This is kind of really fun. So thanks a lot, guys, and good luck.